Hello and welcome back to the It's Karmic podcast with me, your host, Vika Bradford. We have one of your favorite humans here on the podcast, and it has been a hot minute since you've been on, Renata.
It definitely
Hello.
has, but it's the right time.
Renata. Going into this, guys, I butchered this 43 times trying to introduce my dear friend here. So, you guys all know Renata. She's been on the podcast several times. I would say three or four.
Yeah, I don't think I've lost count.
Yeah, maybe more than that. And we've had some really good conversations on here about Aquarius, about not fitting into our families, about eclipses. That was one of our first conversations. We've had so many
Mhm.
good conversations, and I love when you come on because I feel like we really get into the meat of astrology and like the meat of what's going on and like the grit of things. So, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. For everyone listening, Renata has been my sounding board for losing my damn mind for the last 3 years, particularly moving through very intense Leo transits, getting hit by Pluto. And you yourself have had many transits yourself,
Yep.
not just the Leo stuff, but other things getting hit by Pluto as well.
Yep. I definitely have. So where should we talk first?
Yeah, I know. It's like how where do we begin on the mental breakdowns that we have experienced, but also the big breakthroughs we've also had through, say, like visibility, being seen, doing our work, claiming our work, and like really getting
Hmm.
clear on what's aligned. You said to me yesterday in a voice note, like, what do you actually value? What are your actual values? And is your work in alignment with that? And all the shit that gets shown to us when we're inside of these massive, particularly Pluto transits, but any outer planet transit is going to create this kind of tension in our life.
Yeah, I think I think going through like four Pluto transits like in a row to really difficult or challenging parts of my chart. The first one was my midheaven, which for people who don't know what that is, it was my career point. So like my public image, I went through this like massive death and rebirth. And then it simultaneously then moved on and was in opposition. So that's another like kind of push and pull energy with my Mercury, which is
Yeah.
how my mind works.
Yeah.
My Mercury's in the 12th house. So like it's already like lost at sea. And you hit Pluto there, it felt really intense. But it wasn't until it it hit my Leo sun, which is also in the 12th house, where I really wanted to retreat. And that can be really challenging to do when you have a public facing role like I do. And it's interesting because how my chart naturally works, my Leo sun and my Mercury hide in the 12th house. Like personally, I just want to like be behind the scenes all the time. And so it's funny when people are like, "Oh, well, I think you're so outgoing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what you just see. You see my Leo rising in my Aries midheaven, and it's still I want that is my Aries is my public facing, like career image, and then my Leo risings like that social persona. The two combined are kind of like that leading thing that you meet with when you see me on Instagram. But my it's a lot actually for me to show up because I'm dealing with so much shit behind the scenes.
Hmm.
And when that Pluto transit hit my sun, it was an opposition. It was like it felt like I'm like, oh my God, I just went through so many of these mini rebirths and different aspects of my life. But when it hit that part of me, I was prepared. I understood like what it could bring up, but being an astrologer, knowing that information doesn't bypass my human experience and never will. But it did make it very hard, and it brought up a lot of the shadow things that Pluto will do that I didn't realize that was in my space. Like definitely some of the gone wrong Leo energy came up to be reevaluated. Um, I really noticed my need for why isn't nobody noticing me? But then at the same time, I'm like, but I don't want to show up. So like, Renata, I feel like get your shit together. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you just can't.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you expect to be seen if you're hiding?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know. You want to direct me maybe on to what else to kind of go down that rabbit hole because I have 45 directions.
I know there's so many directions. And I really liked what you said there. Like, as I'm thinking about what we both do as astrologers, and then how it's like like it's an umbrella, right? For all the things that happen underneath us being astrologers and all the things we
Yeah.
use the astrology to assist others with. And like I think it's so important when we're talking about being seen in our work and the work that we do, um, this piece around like what you were sharing there where people are they have this perception of you, they have a
Mm.
projection of you that
Yeah.
you are this that like you are outgoing, or the people out there that think the joke we had before we hopped on today, everyone was like, I got called a narcissist once, um, just because I talk about myself on the podcast, and you got told to check your ego today
Because I
because
was
you
walking through an example using my chart on social media, and
yes,
I'm like, are you? Oh, okay. You still have time to
yes.
take that down.
Right? So it's like these projections of what people believe that we are
Hmm.
versus what is actually the truth of who we are. And I think that's an important piece when we're talking about visibility, or like these placements, particularly getting rocked by Pluto, is the exposure that happens where you almost have to like see yourself through a projection and you're like, is this true? Do I
Hmm.
actually feel this way? Do I show up that way? Or like buckling back down into like, no, that's actually not true. And this is who I am. And I'm going to just be okay with you projecting onto me.
Yeah, and why that transit felt particularly hard, and I just want to hide. And I felt like I was really dropping the ball, but it just felt paralyzing to be seen. And it also felt really hard to go back to my old way of producing content because I just felt like that version of my creativity. It died, and it didn't die, it was being transformed into something else. But when you're in that liminal space where like you're outgrowing this aspect of you and you're like, I haven't fully landed on the next thing and I got a business to run, it can feel like such a interesting moment in time, right? That not enough people talk about because you just see what people are producing externally. And I did bring voice to that because I was just like, just so you guys know, like, this is a thing that happens. And I was on a streak for a while. Like, I felt like I was in this flow and I still had stuff going on, but that really brought things to a halt. And in addition to that, this is where you look at your natal chart. I also have a Pluto square.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I also am constantly dealing with myself. And I've had to deal with myself and I've had to deal with these themes around my ego and like check myself. But I've also brought light to that. And a lot of the things that I like to joke about is like, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'll be the first one to admit it, you know? I'll poke fun of that because I think when we can kind of see like, yeah, I was a little bit out of line there. It happens. I will still self-correct, but then there was a line that I draw in the sand that I'm like, just because you don't like the way I am, that's like, am I gonna now self-abandon who I am? Or am I gonna show up a certain way just because you validate me and you recognize me and you applaud me? That's a very slippery slope, especially if Pluto's hitting your sun sign, but if you have a lot of Leo placements.
Yeah.
This is one of the lessons, and I know it's a hard one for me in this lifetime. I know for you, it's really like, am I going to choose myself and be fully authentic and understand that I'm not going to be for everyone, but I might give other people permission to feel confident to express who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to see this ramp up over the next 2 years, particularly. I've been sitting with the transits that are coming. So not only do we have Pluto blasting through Aquarius, just hitting anybody's early degree placements in Leo. So really rocking those. Also, giving those squares to the other fixed placements. But we're really just talking about this visibility piece right now, which
Hmm.
I actually have been leaning deeply into, as the Pluto squares the Scorpio placements too, there's more visibility shit that comes up there too.
Yeah,
There's
I'm in my
more
Pluto
like,
square.
right, I'm gonna get persecuted if I'm visibly seen, the Leo energy. But as we have the South Node move in to Leo this year, that's my nodal return, and then we have Jupiter head in, it's like they're slowly moving together. Jupiter and Pluto are gonna create this opposition, and it's like this shit's gonna get ramped up to 100, where we have to be sorting out exactly what you just said. It's like, am I solid enough in my being? Do I like fully embody and embrace who I am authentically, or am I constantly putting on masks? Am I constantly performing? And I've noticed in my own life, like the stripping away of the performance has,
Yep.
oh, it's led me to this place where I'm like, oh, I'm just naked and bare here, but I've had to step out of so many different roles where I didn't realize I was performing for years.
1,000%. And I definitely can feel where I lean more into the Leo performance energy, not from a malicious place, but that's just like where we can naturally default to.
Yeah.
And with all these transits and I'm happy they happen. Like it felt weird during going through it because you're kind of like, what's going on? And like nothing externally was wrong in my life. It was this internal process.
Hmm.
And it really brought me to this place where I notice myself now. I'm like, you're being hypey. And sometimes, I'm a little spicy. I go on there, I get, I have my, bold opinions and I go on a rant, but that's always going to be who I am. My nickname's Rant with Renata for a reason.
Hmm.
But I know there's a time and place where I'm like, is it coming? Am I being a little hypey here? And I've really have now, because of Pluto, have really combed through to be like, take that out. No, I don't want to say that. I don't know. And I don't like, let's not go there. And I don't give a shit if it doesn't perform as well online because I'm like, I'm wanting to speak through this new version of me that I get. And the version of me before, she wasn't wrong either. She just is where I was at that time.
Yeah.
So I have looked back and I've cringed a little bit sometimes, but I'm like, but dude, like you don't know what you don't know, and that's life.
Yeah.
And I whatever. My name's Renata Rebirth for a reason too. So like I just know that we go through it's okay to go through these cycles and these different variations of yourself and not to beat yourself up for the things that maybe you didn't realize or like even your ego blind spots. But
Mhm.
it's like once I know what I know, I'm gonna course correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's huge because there's so many things I look back on that I created, not only in my work as an astrologer and whatever I am now, but also as a singer and songwriter. Like I look back and I'm like, cringe, cringe. Like, girl, what were you doing? And some of these producers back in the day were like, this is awful. And I was like, how dare you? And then I listen back, I'm like, no, it's truly terrible. Like, truly fucking terrible. And being able to like evolve past the point of being like taking that personally. And I love you because yesterday for everyone, I told you Renata's been walking me through the chaos of being me. And and she said to me so beautifully yesterday, like I make it so personal. I make it about me. And I really needed to fucking hear that because I've always done this. I've always made it about me. I write a shitty song and someone's like, that's a shitty song. And I'm like, that's about me. Like, how dare you attack me and tell me this shitty
Yeah,
song
yeah,
is shitty, but it,
yeah.
it just genuinely is. Or I haven't like done the work or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like so many people who are working with the visibility women particularly are like wanting to be seen, but being afraid to be seen, all these things that come up. It is that we make it personal. We make it really, really
Yeah.
personal. That it's like an attack on us rather than a growth curve or a learning experience or just not even about us because it's a projection.
Yeah, and like yeah, and also it's like a matter of am I going to choose myself in this moment, right? And it's like if we don't get mirrored those experiences, and I get everyone has their experiences and sometimes like I can't factor all the dimensions of that, but I just kind of look back now at all the times I've been quote unquote rejected and these themes in my life that I'm like, am I gonna let that I can choose how I respond to that experience. I can continue to take everything personally and live with that filter and then just anytime anyone says anything, go back into that past moment unconsciously. Or I can notice the trigger when it comes up and be like, ooh, what's this about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I still get triggered. Like I got a Pluto square my sun and Mercury. Like I'm gonna get triggered, but I've learned to really sit with it and get curious. Um, and that's just been like a skill that I've had to develop.
Yeah. Yeah, which is huge. And I feel so deeply like just having Pluto square the moon, of how emotionally entangled I get into things,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And like I'm just so like it is really personal. And like even with your son, it's like it is personal. It's about your identity.
Mhm.
And anyone who's like working through this is like how personal we take things I'm always curious about how that's holding us back from actually going after the things we want. I was sitting there last night and the night before, and what kept flooding into my brain, and I haven't sat down and really like got into the meat of this yet, but like there's something coming through that was like, I have not had enough audacity.
Mm,
Not enough audacity in my work, not enough audacity in what I want out of life, not enough audacity out of just being like, yeah, I actually do want whatever it is, right? Like the big goal, the big dream, the thing that feels like too much, too big. I'm like, I've been humbling myself for so damn long. And that humbling, though being humble is very important
mm,
in its own containment, but
mm,
that humbling has kept me from being like audacious enough to be like, I want this. So here's my like, here's my offer. I'm gonna slide it into the universe and just be like, take this. This is what I want. And that
mm,
humbleness, I feel like I've been sitting with how much it's been holding me back. And I
mm.
feel like I'm wondering how many people are sitting there like humbling themselves because of this fear or because they have these thoughts or projections like floating around in their minds.
Oh God, yeah, because I have things that I'm like, ooh, like I'm not allowed to want that or this or that, um and I always examine it. I'm like, why do I feel that way? What's the reasoning behind that? What am I going to think? What is when I like who do I think it's going to make me become? Or and even like sometimes the things that I want, I'm like, do I even why do I even want that? Is that really what I want?
Mm,
But I do find that a lot of people hold back because of the way that they're going to be received when they say
yeah,
their thing, when they share their work, when they state their opinion, when they express themselves.
yeah.
But then I always look at the impact of that. So it's like, is me holding that in myself worth worth it
Mm-hmm.
for just the life that I want to be living and who I
Yeah.
am and how I'm designed? I just know, even though I have a lot of shit I got to constantly work through, and it's not an easy time, even though I know it looks that way.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not going to not play full out. Like I'm not designed that way, even though I get pushback. And it's funny because part of my thing is when I ask people and I'm working with people, I'm like, what are you most afraid of? Well, someone's going to say a bad comment about me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, like what? So they're going to say a bad comment, but like, what does that even mean? And I even feel that way. It's like people are going to attack my opinion. And I
Yeah.
ironically get that. And it's funny that when you start to see it more and more, you're like, and you actually read through it, you're kind of like, you, you have time to take that down, you know?
Yeah.
And even sometimes I'm like, okay, I hear what they're saying, but I can't explain my entire brain in a 3-minute reel. And we're just gonna, I'm not gonna now send you 7,000 essays just because whatever, you know? I might clarify my point in an upcoming thing, but that's just I feel like the risk that sometimes comes with it that you're gonna be misunderstood, even if
Yeah.
those aren't your intentions.
I've been talking a lot about the Leo Aquarius fifth house, 11th house axis and
Mm.
like what it means like when we're exposed is this like wound of belonging that comes in, right? Like they will see me and I won't belong or I'll be ousted and everything you said there feels like that thing where it's like that Aquarius 11th house side feels threatened by you being the Leo fifth house side. And it's this like terror that happens inside. If I'm just me and I express what I want to express and I am authentically heart led, they're not going to like it. And then I'll be rejected and then I won't belong. So we'll just stay hidden.
Oh, I feel that deeply. I got my Chiron in Gemini, exact opposition in the 11th house, exact opposition, my Uranus and Sag in the fifth. So
Yeah.
it's like there's this part of me that's a bit of a, unconventional
Yeah.
in the way that I want to create and express. And then there's right there being like, ooh, I don't
Yeah.
know about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
that's
it
the
feels
medicine. I know that.
dangerous.
I know that.
Yeah, it really is the medicine and I've been sitting a lot with like what's the cost, right? Like what's the cost of us shrinking? What's the cost of not birthing the thing you want to into the world, of not saying what you want to say? Like what is the actual cost? Because we can perceive the cost like energetically, karmically, whatever as um like I won't belong, but like what's the actual cost? Because the cost is I will not express myself. I will shrink myself. I will get smaller. And I can't remember the exact quote, but There is this psychologist, and the name is, I think it's Maria von Franz. It's like eluding me completely, but she talks about how like people who don't express their art or their creativity are like the worst patients because they make, she says something like they make mountains out of molehills and they just are angry, shrewd people that stop being in love with life because they have all this creative energy inside of them. They have something to say or do or give to the world, and they don't do it because they're afraid or whatever. And they just become like shriveled up versions of themselves. And I'm really paraphrasing here, but
I
it
was like, whoa,
feels, yeah, she did not
that's
write
an
it exactly like
image.
that. But it's like this energy where if that's inside of you and you're not letting it out of you, I feel like it actually starts to make us like ill in a way.
Oh, yeah, we're designed to create. And again, if you have these strong visibility placements, especially a Leo, like you're here to express,
Yeah.
right? And don't get me wrong, there's the Leo gone wrong, and like I'm not a fan of that. And again, I said I will call myself out when I'm there, and like I've close people in my life to be like, Renata, and I'm
I
like,
know.
I know, right? So I have that self-awareness, and I'm still going to be growing. Like trust me, there's
Hmm.
things I don't even know about myself, and I'm excited to meet those parts eventually. But the thing about creativity is the reframe, because you are going to get rejected. I think people, you need to
Yeah.
just normalize. Not everyone's going to like you. Like, just not
Yeah.
everyone. Just like, and then the way I reframe it is like, do you like every ice cream flavor?
Yeah.
Do you like every movie out there? Do you like every book out there? And maybe you like a genre of books, but you don't like that particular author. But like, should he stop writing because you don't like his book?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I
Even
mean?
like one of my favorite authors, she released these two books with her son. So I love all of her books. I've read every single one. I have them all. Like I'm obsessed. And she released these two that she co-wrote with her son. I don't love them. I don't
Mhm.
love them. But does
Mhm.
that make all the rest of her work less than because these two books she wrote before she died aren't my favorite?
Yeah,
No.
because the point of making art is you make it for yourself, and
Yeah.
everyone's going to receive it differently.
Yeah.
Just like when you see a painting, different people get the different things. You hear a sound
Yeah.
piece of music, some people's going to see something different. You read the book, that might have been life-changing for someone, and someone else are like, that wasn't my thing.
Hmm.
And that's the thing is being willing to just know that your art is going to, or your creation is going to be received, and not in even the way that sometimes you think it's going to be received.
Yeah.
And I just started to normalize, even though, yeah, I can get activated sometimes when I see silly goose comments. But at the same time, I'm like, we're not like when you're in the ethers of the internet, for example, there's always going to be someone who has like a faceless account and wants to be a troll. And it's like, whatever, they can say whatever they want. I don't have to receive that. Or I
Hmm.
can look at it as constructive criticism.
Mm.
And it's funny because when I tend to fixate on the negative, like it's what I do. I can be very optimistic, don't get me wrong, but I have to catch myself. I have to really do a lot of reframes with that Pluto hitting, my natal Pluto hitting freaking Mercury and my Sun conjunction. Like, I gotta, okay? And when I posted something yesterday that did very well, like I got over 100 followers. It's not even been 24 hours. Like it was a very great video to it, like attraction video. But then I had a couple of comments, you know, and my brain just was like going there. And I was like, whoa, buddy, why don't you look at all the people that reshared it, that said thank you, that messaged you, that started to follow you? I also got another podcast invite because of I was bold enough to share that viewpoint and and do it in my Leo spicy Aries midheaven personality. So
Hmm.
it's like sometimes it's so important to look at the bigger picture because our brain, and I think all of our brains, I feel like mine is just like, let's just sit in the negative and stew in the shit. But we tend to look at that and it can just ruin the beautiful thing that your work did.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. I was talking to my husband recently about delusion, and I
Mhm,
was like, how delusion is good and
mhm,
bad for these many reasons. And I was talking particularly about when I first started making music.
mhm,
And I did really, really well in like really fast. And in the point where now I look back and I'm like, whoa, like that's
mhm.
kind of crazy that you were on a state of trance, your second track ever made, like you were on the number one music, what is it called, radio show in all of trance, like right away. And
Yeah.
how my delusion on the high octave was like the reason I got there because I was delusional enough to be like, hey, Dennis Kenzo, number one, like really big guy in trance, you want to work with me? And he was like, sure. Like it's delusional what I did.
Yeah.
But then I was talking about my how my delusion was actually a problem because there was this part of me that was like, but I'm not a number one vocalist. I'm not getting there fast enough. I'm not making
Mm.
it fast enough. I'm failing. I'm failing. It was like 2 years into the industry and I was like, I'm not good enough because I wasn't the number one vocalist. And
Mm.
I'm sitting there now, all these years later, like literally 10 years later since I really broke out in the trance world. And I'm like, bitch, your delusional mind, yes, got you there, but also destroyed it for you because I
Mm.
was unable to witness how far I got because I could only focus on the fact that I wasn't there yet, or I could focus on
Yeah.
the fact that the producers didn't like this track, or that I got rejected constantly, which is going to happen in any industry,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
Especially
And
that one.
oh my God, it's endless. And but I was so messed up like mentally when I look back, I'm like, holy Neptunian 12th house, unable to like really witness the truth of the experience until 10 years
Mhm.
out to say, whoa, like you actually made it so far, but you couldn't see because you only saw what you didn't get.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that nails it. And I feel when we get so fixated, this we talk about this a lot, this notion of attachment.
Hmm.
And I tell people when it could have been the times, of course, in social media, TikTok around 2021 when I started producing reels and just had to deal with my anger about the state of the world. That's how I channel my creativity. My creativity saved me. It saved me during that time. That self-expression saved me and it supported so many other people. So, but I didn't go in there being like, I'm gonna start doing TikToks and reels. I was like, oh, what's this thing? Let's just play. Let's just play because the
Yeah.
world's on fire and I'm gonna lose my mind. And it was just this fun experiment that I leaned into. And again, I never, honestly, in a million years, ever thought I was gonna hit 10,000 people on in Instagram. Okay, I was just like, I'm just doing this because we can't do anything. And like, again, I'm angry and I gotta channel this energy somewhere. And the fact that I was just so detached and just being in my joy and I wasn't creating. I didn't have like, what should I say and what should I post and how are these people gonna whatever. I was just like, I'm just gonna self-express. And
Yeah.
it just took off naturally. And I really attribute to that. I don't think it would have had the same outcome if I was so attached and fixated on what are the people gonna like.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's like I was just like, this is like I'm just gonna do these things.
Honestly, same. Like when I started, same time period, like really going all in. I was just having a lot of fun
Yeah.
writing about astrology, like on Pinterest especially. And I didn't even realize that my Pinterest had like 32,000 followers till someone said it. They were like, "Oh my God, your Pinterest has a lot of followers." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I had no
So
idea.
funny.
And I was just literally having a good time. Just making graphics was really fun. Teaching, I was
Hmm.
like this, like synthesizing astrology in my own way. And then when we've talked about this too, we like lost like the joy of making just because we wanted to. And when I
Hmm.
realized that, I was like, yeah, like that's when I started to turn off. And now that I'm writing my manuscript on Substack, I feel the joy again because like that little piece of me isn't searching for anything. It's just trying to write what it needs to come through, like the words that want to be birthed, the stories that want to be told
Yeah.
about all the wounds. Like I want to do that, and it has no it's not searching for anything at all. That attachment isn't there, but it's there
Hmm.
in other things. So like as you're saying, I'm like, yeah, I got to witness how attached I can get to the outcomes of certain things. And it's funny too, as you talk about this, where now that I'm getting back into making music again, I have zero attachment.
Yeah.
I don't care if I become a number one trans vote. I don't give a fuck. I
Mhm.
just want to make music. I miss writing. I miss singing. I miss collaborating. I miss hearing someone take my vocals and make them into a track. And now, like, as I've just had my first one get signed, I'm like, that was so much fun.
Hmm.
Like, what? This is Pluto, I think, doing its job, doing its
Oh,
work.
100%. I did feel like Pluto helped me in my that state of where I was creating stuff. It was for that type of point in my it was perfect for where I was in my point. Oh my gosh, I can't speak English. It was perfect for me at the time of like where I was at in my state of consciousness. Oh my.
It's
Um,
okay.
but because I'm moving into other transits that we're not going to get into, but I'm starting to experience my midlife awakening transits, like the
Yeah.
one Neptune square, it's hitting my
Yeah.
ninth house and it's hitting my fifth house. And I can just
Hmm.
feel like just even my philosophy on astrology is changing. Just like the way that I want to create is changing. It's kind of like I just feel like I'm already in the ether, but I'm like, oh my God, like this, like, I just live here 24/7 now because of all my 12th house, eighth house placements. But this Neptunian transit, and I'm like, okay, like Pluto did its number, and now it's like, okay, into the fog, and then with your Pluto square
Hmm.
Pluto, another rebirth. Let's do it. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you found this thing that just gives you this pure joy of creation. And I'm still trying to find what that is for me. And I'm okay with it. I made peace with it. And I've taken the pressure off. And I'm really like, you know what? If I feel inspired to share something, which I've been doing now, I share it. And I'm noticing this new piece of creation that wants to come out is more of the unfiltered Renata. It's not like I'm not trying
Hmm.
to, but it's more of like, guys, this is actually how this is how this works. Or like, this is you got to be mindful here. And I know that pisses people off, but I'm like, but that's how I want to express right now. But it still feels a bit delicate.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
know that is what's calling me forward. And there's other shit. I just don't see it yet. But
Yeah. It's
I
coming,
can't
but
go just back to what I was doing because that just feels like a version of me that is no longer there. And there's a
yeah.
grief with that. There was definitely, I
Hmm.
didn't even realize a grief of this version of myself that I'm like, she's
I know.
she ain't there right now. Like there's a new version coming through. It's like sorry.
Yeah, I feel like that grief is important to touch on because, and this happens to me, it happens to all my students, all my clients, all my friends, everyone, where we're like trying to reach back and like be that version, even though like when we logically think about it, you're like, you go back and you're like, there was shit there too, right? Like there was
There was
hard
shit
shit there
there.
too. But some part of us starts to like forget the shit and starts to glamorize and like romanticize the past. And we try to like reach back and we're like, if I could only be her again, if I could only have her energy again, her bravery again, like whatever it is, right? Her
Mm,
zest for life. I think back about my 2011 version of me. Like she was just I was in the shit. Like I was in hell and yet I was having the best time of my life and I like reach for her, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
but she's not there anymore.
I
She's like a
know.
little coffin inside of me. She's sleeping.
Yeah.
And that grief is so important to talk about because I think we all like, unless we're consciously doing the work we're doing, people tend to look back and they're like, if I could just get her, and they're like gripping for it, but
Hmm.
not accepting that, like, can I actually meet and fall in love with this version of me? Like, is that possible? And I actually think it's so important that we fall in love with this new version of ourselves because like, we can't keep reaching back.
Yeah, and it's like I definitely do I can be inspired by her fun, her playfulness, and I'm like I do want to channel those versions of me and I know I have access to it. But when you're working through maybe a particular cycle that is literally like transform you from the inside out, it's like you got to manage your expectations. And that's why I think it's so important. And when I'm working with clients, I'm like, look, I'm not saying you can't do these things, but you have to also understand the nature of this transit. It is trying to strip things down. So when it's stripping things and you're trying to build from the
Mm,
past that used to work, that's just like a real, it's going to really be it's not going to be a fun time. And
hmm.
it's more about constantly leaning in and then I just noticing more and more, okay, yep, that doesn't feel right, but but let's experiment over here.
Hmm.
And sometimes you're in seasons of life where like you're in that internal like washing machine reconfigure reconfiguration stage and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of you're in the cocoon.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're in the cocoon longer,
Yeah, like
okay?
really
And it's
long
just there's
sometimes.
no bypassing the cocoon because the more
Yeah.
if you want to destroy the cocoon, like it's like that's not gonna speed shit up or fix things. Trust me, I
Uh-uh.
tried it. It doesn't
It
work.
doesn't work. I know.
Um,
I feel like you've been a really good reminder for me over the last 3 years, particularly like while I was with Pluto just annihilating me. You're like, you're being stripped clean. You're being stripped clean. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay. Because I
Yeah, but then
wanted
look
to
at how
grip.
the beauty that's come out of it, right? You got
Yeah.
back into writing, you started to feel like alive again. But Pluto requires us to let go of anything that's not stagnant. And this is where we have to face ourselves in the mirror and say, what no longer fits.
Yeah.
And even the content, for example, and the things that I was doing in my business, they were fitting. And then there was a point in time. It's not like it came out of nowhere. I was sensing this, like, I'm outgrowing this.
I
This
know.
doesn't feel maybe as fun as it used to. Like, this isn't doing it the way that it used to. And I was kind of then just like trying to force myself and go through the motions instead of really listening to be like, I'm being invited to course correct right here, but I resisted it. I did. Of course
Hmm.
I did.
Hmm.
Human being, even though I knew
Hmm.
better. And then Pluto came and was like, okay, no problem. We're just gonna like
Yeah.
smack you over the ass with insomnia and make you put a halt on your life and reevaluate some things. And it was great because I ended up changing so many things in my business, restructuring things, and it was in my favor. But it's like sometimes we're going to have to stop gripping on something from the past in order to be open to these different opportunities and ways of expressing that the future can hold. It's just scary because we're like, what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
Right? And
Literally.
Pluto really challenges that your ability to surrender and trust. And
Hmm.
it's not easy. So like if anyone's in one of those right now, just know like you're not going crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's part of the process.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note like how when we resist these moments, like we do get sit on our asses, like we will, like you say, get insomnia or like
Insomnia.
for
I've never
me,
had
like
insomnia.
right? I remember a period in my life that I can track back to a Pluto transit where I had hardcore insomnia. Um, like me getting really sick over the last 3 years. Like there were multiple transits factoring into that, but the whole thing was like, not to say the sky made me sick, but the universe was like, bitch, sit down. Like you're making yourself ill with what you're doing. Your lack of clarity or lack of like willingness to see what isn't working is making you sick. Your nervous system is collapsing because you're
Hmm.
trying so hard to do something that doesn't feel good in your body. And, coming out of it slowly, slowly, my migraines are getting farther and farther apart. I'm like, I had to literally surrender and let go of everything to the point of it being terrifying because the universe was like, you're making yourself sick. Like Pluto was like, you're making yourself sick. Saturn said the same thing. The South Node in my 12th house, all of them, you're making yourself sick. Okay.
Yeah, and there's sometimes so it's not all like doom and gloom because I also can I talk about my tooth situation and when I got my
Yeah.
new tooth when Pluto was opposing my sun.
Hmm.
So as soon as Pluto moved into the sixth house for me, which is like about your health, I had this dying tooth that we were monitoring. It was still alive, but the vitality was being lost. And eventually I had to deal with it, right? But they're like, let's just wait till like it croaks and then, we can go from there. I'm not even shitting you. Like Pluto moved into Aquarius officially. It was in what? No, it was sometime in November 2025. That's when it started to hit my sun. And then that's when the tooth officially died, my front tooth. And for those of you who don't know me, I have mental health issues around the dentist. I've had traumatic experiences. And when it's your front tooth, and I'm someone that's like, I'm not getting a root canal. Like I just it's not happening. I'm not gonna go into that topic right now, but I was like, that's not happening because my option of the dead tooth was get a root canal. So
Yep.
now I'm like, I'm gonna have to pull the tooth and get an implant. And what's interesting is Pluto hitting my son at this point, it has to do with like my image.
Yeah.
But I remember working through that and laughing at that. I'm like, you can't even make this shit up. And Pluto's coming through in Aquarius being like, this is a dead thing. We need to clean it up. We need to
Hmm.
wrap this up. And it was
Hmm.
making me ill. Like I was getting these mystery rashes. And as soon as I pulled a tooth, those mystery rashes stopped. And I felt like $1 million after. Mind you, I took a lot of supplements and did a lot of IVs. It wasn't just like the tooth was pulled. Like I did a lot of work to heal my body that I didn't realize was so depleted. But I remember being so scared because I'm like, what if the implant fails? And then I'm like
Hmm.
missing a tooth in the front. And I was like, whatever, you could get a flipper and all these things, but these were like worries. And I was like, what if it hits a nerve and it paralyzes my face? And it was so interesting as it's hitting my Leo sun. But then I had to sit there and I'm like, okay, those are all the things that can go wrong. I get those fears are really loud. You already have issues here with the dentist because you think too much here and you've had bad experiences. That's your past and fears talking. But what about the beauty of what can go right? You're gonna have a healthy tooth. Like this, like slowly dying tooth is probably not a good thing in your body anymore. Like, let's
Yeah.
look at all the good things that can happen from this. And you're not gonna be embarrassed to smile in photos anymore because like the tooth was dead and it looked gray and like Anyways, so it ended up working perfect and fine, better than I thought. And here I was like, this was a gift, even though I had to
Hmm.
work through a lot of dental fears. And also, like,
Hmm.
what if my face gets paralyzed? And I know it's very unlikely, but when you have irrational fears around the
Yeah.
dentist, that was like the inner narrative of my mind. And now I look back, I'm like, I was stressed about that.
Mm.
And it's so funny to look back at these things. And that's why I love Pluto transits. It really can um build on our resiliency. And there's even harder things that people go through life. I know that. And it's not always fun and a fun time. I know that tooth situations, some people might be like, oh my God, it's just your tooth. Like, get over it. But I've just learned that it can have you have this different perspective. And I'm so glad I got rid of that fear. It was irrational. Like every time I
Yeah.
went to the dentist, I was like, I don't take lorazepam, but I was like, I need a lorazepam. Like I don't want to deal with this
Yeah.
shit.
Because the fear was so big.
It was so
Uh,
out of control. And now
yeah.
the fear is gone. And I really attribute it because that transit happened and I had to face this shit. And then I
Yeah.
realized, wow, like why don't we look at all the good that's going to come out of it instead of entertaining the past when the past, this is not the past. This is the present.
Hmm. And like the tooth thing is so interesting too, because one of my psychotherapist friends and I were talking about the tooth trauma, all the tooth trauma I've had in the last
Tooth
year.
trauma. Oh my God.
And she made a good point where she was talking about it, and she has severe tooth trauma, and
You
she
should
was
form a
like,
club.
I know, right? And she was like, people act like getting teeth pulled is just an everyday experience. She's like, but it's actually deep trauma to the body. Like it's
Mhm.
severe traumatic experience for the body. And when she said that to me, I was like, I feel so safe and validated in the fact that like there is actually so much fear there and so much trauma there. So just validating the fact that like what you went through is actually really intense and it involves your perception of like how you're seen, which is huge. And your physical body, like all these ascendant things and Leo things, like it's literally people seeing you. But I'm also thinking about like the fears and phobias that come up with Pluto,
Yep.
and moving through them is like when we're in it like that, right? Like I'm thinking of my own when Pluto was opposing my Chiron. I lost my Oma and my Opa at the same time, and my
Mm.
Saturn return as well. And I laid in bed for a year processing death. Like every night I would lay there and like I'd be like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die one day. Josh is gonna die one day. My dog's gonna die one day. All my friends are gonna die. Oh my God, my mom's gonna die. Oh my God, my sister's gonna die. And I would just
Yeah.
lay there for hours thinking about death. And I'm so thankful now for that period of my life. But in it, I was like, I'm never gonna stop being afraid of death because Pluto was hitting my Chiron in Cancer, making me think about
Mm.
all the people that were going to die and what that
Mhm.
would do to me. And that, so when we're processing all these fears, like thinking about whatever's coming up for anyone listening, like if you're having like fears and phobias, like maybe you're shrinking away because you're having irrational fears right now. Maybe you're having a tooth thing. Maybe it's something else, right? Like maybe your body feels like it's failing and you're like, am I dying? I don't know what is coming up for anyone, but it's like Pluto invites us to meet these irrational fears for exactly what you're saying. The reason to say on the other side of it is freedom.
Yeah, yeah. And when it hit my Mercury and my Sun, I really did, death was on my mind. Like a lot of like existential, and I felt like I call them intrusive thoughts. I don't know if that's what it just felt like it because I was like, why am I thinking about that? And it was
Yeah.
like, and it was this theme of like death and like how we have this fraction of time on this earth. And it made me really reevaluate like, are you doing like what you want to be doing? Like, are you going to make the most out of this? And how sometimes we can take it for granted because
Hmm.
we're in our day-to-day shit.
Mm.
But yeah, I have to comment that definitely, and I think we talked about that. I think I messaged you. I'm like, I just think about all these like, is this normal? You're like,
Yeah.
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 'Cause it's like,
Yeah.
why am I thinking about this all the time? It feels so depressing.
I know. I remember you processing stuff around family,
Yeah.
like that they're going to die one day, and I remember just being like, "Yep." Like I have sat there and stewed on that, and had to like it was like 2 years I think where I just sat there being like, "Everyone I love is going to die. I'm going to die." And even though I truly and fully believe on the other side, I go up somewhere great, I reincarnate if so desired. Like I believe that, and yet there's this part of me that's like, "What if it's just black?"
Oh,
And I'm
shit.
just in the blackness Forever. I read this book. It's a really good book. It's called Initiation by Elizabeth Hayes. It's a recall of a past life from Egypt. Highly suggest for anyone who's interested in like Egypt's and past lives and stuff. But she recalls in it, in this life, she like gets stuck as she dies in her sarcophagus for like thousands of years. And she's like, I remember just, I don't know if this is possible. I don't
Mhm.
know. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she describes like laying there for all this time just in the blackness. And I remember just being like, I don't want that. Like, what if that's what's on the other side? I've
Yeah.
moved through this. I don't believe that is what happens. But and then around the same time I had read that book that this whole process was happening, and it baffled me. Like, what if there's nothing there?
I know. It's like, and then my mind just was, yeah, it was like, is this a video? Like, I think about these things a lot. And I think about like Earth and like, are we really on a planet right now? Is this just a simulation? But like when I
Yeah.
die, and then I think about like my last moment I'm going to have on Earth at one time, and it just trips me out. But then I'm like, but then again, I'm like, but that's the whole thing is like, I don't know what's on the other side. And I did, what's it called? Uh, Mushrooms? A lot of like a personal high dose and by myself. And I had this experience with, I called it the death dimension. And it wasn't, and I remember laying there. I know we kind of just veered here,
We veered.
but
It's
it's
fine.
because it's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
And I remember doing it because I was like, I need to. Never in a million years I even thought I would do mushrooms by myself, mind you, at the dose that I did. But it was literally Neptune was conjunct my Jupiter in the eighth house
Mm.
when it happened. So like enough said. But in there, I remember being in what I experienced as the death dimension. And right when I literally thought, I was sitting there, I'm like, is this it for me? It moved me into what I called, or what the experience felt like, was the ultimate state of consciousness. And it was this beautiful, blissful place. But it was on the verge when I surrendered, where I was like, yeah, this might be it. Okay, let's just lean in. And it gave me this perspective. And that's why a lot of research shows like people who are about to die, they might take mushrooms or go through like a guided experience to help them make peace with crossing to the other side. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it, because it literally flipped or gave me a more empowering perspective on the human experience and consciousness. Because I was in this thing, I had no body. You know how they talk about you're just like a soulless thing? I'm like, I
Hmm.
get it now. Like, I get
Hmm.
it. I know I was like hallucinating or whatever, but still, like, I was like, oh, this is like crazy. Like, you don't worry about what, like, who's following you on Instagram or what comment they made or like the taxes you got to pay. You're just in this state of bliss and you're nothing. And you're this like state of consciousness and you're just interacting with everything. I'm like, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
And I always thought maybe death is this beautiful thing because some cultures really celebrate it. They
Yeah.
don't have this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's deeply revered in a few cultures now. I mean, many before. But I think like when we're touching on this and like a Pluto transit, I think if we could understand it's like the fear, I'm thinking metaphorically, like the fear we have before death, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, what's gonna be on the other side? This is terrifying, is the mirrored fear of a Pluto transit.
Yeah.
Everything's falling apart. Everything's falling apart. It's all dying. It's all horrible. There's chaos. Like, oh my God, it's so bad. And then what's on the other side is that bliss state of like, oh, I let go of all those
Mm.
chains. I let go of all that stagnation. Like Pluto is literally detoxification, right? So like I literally detoxified this portion of me, body, soul, spirit, whatever it is.
Mm.
It feels like what you just said is how a Pluto transit goes.
Yeah, and look, I don't know what's on the other side. I'm not going to claim I know. That was just my experience, taking that type of, you know, medicine, plant medicine.
Yeah.
But I definitely know when it is my time. I don't know, I might do a guided journey to help
Yeah.
support me to that other side, because I did find it like, for me, because I know some people aren't afraid of death. They're just like, whatever. It's like, who knows? I'm ready to see what the other side has or whatever. But for me, I'm like, and I still don't know. We still don't know. Even though
Yeah.
people say they have their opinions and experiences, like, but I'm like, I haven't been there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Agreed. Completely. Completely. Like we won't know until we're over there. And then it
It's
won't
probably got
matter.
weird. in
It's
a
so
weird
I love it. I
direction.
love it. It got very
Jesus.
Plutonian. But I think it all leads into like the crisis moment of like these Plutonian moments a lot of us are going through, what we're going through collectively, right? We're seeing the death of many Leo-like things, like even the fact that Hollywood was birthed in Leo energy, Leo,
Yeah, right. I
right?
remember researching that. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, right. It's fa and it's fascinating that we're watching the fall happen right now, the
Yeah.
dismantlement. And if we can think about all of these things metaphorically, it's like we are all experiencing this both collectively, like the Leo dismantlement is happening, the Aquarius, whatever is happening. And then energetically, we're all experiencing it somewhere in our chart. And then some of us are deeply experiencing it if we have, these Aquarius Leo placements. Obviously, we're not talking about the Scorpio, Taurus, and then all the million other aspects that get to create a
Yeah.
whole other thing. But when we're just talking about this being seen, visibility, doing your work, being the creative, like that, I feel like so many of us are, and we've been terrified to be crucified for being the creative. This
Yeah.
Pluto thing that's happening is trying to make us more authentically be able to do that. So I feel like
And
that's
it
what we're
is a
going through.
metaphorical death. There's a version
Yeah.
of you that's going to have to die, or a fear, or a belief, or a pattern, or a something in your psyche that has to die. So it's like it does bring this type of
Yeah.
transformation there. It's
It
inevitable.
does. It does. And I feel like meeting, like, so many people are like, oh, you're so focused on like the dark, like the shadow, blah, 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 the love and light, love and light. But I'm like, this is where it actually happens. Like, this is how I get deeper into love and light is if I can meet death, if I can meet the Plutonian underworld Hades energy that asks me to die, to go and then like go into the underworld process and like that's where the Elysian fields are. They're actually when we die.
And what's crazy is like if we didn't have shadow, we wouldn't know light existed. Like
Yeah.
in but I get, that's just who want like that's just your flavor of expression. And if people don't want to go there, it's probably because they don't have a lot of, they don't want to go there. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
They might not have as many Pluto aspects or placements. But
100%.
think about all the people that you've helped who have those that are just like, finally, someone talking about this.
Yeah, exactly. Like let's go to the depths and goes right back into what we were talking about somewhere in the middle about like you're not everyone's favorite flavor of ice cream, as you said, right? Like no, not everyone's gonna love you. For anyone listening that's like got something they want to create and something they want to birth into the world, maybe it's a business, maybe it's like a creative act, maybe you want to write, maybe you want whatever it is, I don't care. Um, you are not going to be loved by everyone. In fact, unhinged, unwell people will come onto your page, platform, wherever you are, and they will spew hatred at you. This is a literal thing that happens, and it doesn't mean anything about you at all. And it shouldn't hold you back.
No, especially if you are being true to yourself. Like again, if
Yeah.
you're in the Leo gone wrong and you're being, your own like, your whatever,
Hmm.
something to look at. But for the most part, like if you're purely like, I'm doing this, creating from my heart, this is the way I express, this is my true authenticity. I'm embracing all the dimensions of you.
Hmm.
And someone just like wants to create a burner account, like, I don't,
Yeah.
What's that book I really like by Rick Rubin?
The creative act.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a really great tool. I've read that thing like four
So
times
good.
now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's a really great tool to help you work through your creativity, and I've learned a lot from that. And in
Yeah.
addition to all my astrology, like me understanding these challenging aspects of my chart, I was like, oh, I'm not crazy, and oh,
Right.
I'm not cursed, because like you read that garbage on the internet, and you're like, oh my God, life's gonna be so hard, and you're like, no, I have a choice. Like I get I have these
Yeah.
placements, it's my wiring, but this is my wiring for the rest of my life. So what am I gonna do about it?
Yeah.
I
How
at
am I gonna
least
work with it?
try to be the most empowered version of myself, or am I going to sit there and be like, Pluto's aspecting my sun, so I'm just never going to self-express because blah blah blah. It's like, no, I'm going to work through the shit that it's gonna bring up.
Literally, it's like that's the map telling you this is what I need to meet rather than telling you this is how you're fated to be cursed. And I love like I love that we can talk about that because I think there's so much garbage on the internet that like feel makes people feel like they're literally cursed. Like they're cursed for the rest of their life because yeah, same Pluto is square my moon and like that is like the ultimate curse, right? Some of the things I've read and I'm like, thank God for Judy Hall being out there teaching what she teaches about the Hades
Yeah.
moon because it's like it's a liberation point. It's a decision, like you said, to it be inspired in a different way. And so for me, I'm like, okay, if I know that I have 700 placements in Leo and they all need help, like help so I can actually be me, like that means, okay, when I read, yeah, Rick Rubin's book or The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, or there's another one I can't remember the name. It's by Chase Jarvis, and it's in that like same creative act kind of like thing. And I really loved his book, like Chase Jarvis's book as well. Like these things get to help us when we're aware of what the shit is we're working through. So I'm like, okay, I've got creativity wounds. I'm gonna go grab some things and learn about creativity. Something I'm working with right now too, as my Libra ascendant is getting annihilated by Chiron right now, by opposition, is I am working deeply, and also the placements in my seventh house. I'm working deeply with like boundaries. So I've gotten these books like The Courage to Be Disliked, or like this book all about like putting up solid boundaries and learning how to just be like, no, I'm not going to self-abandon. I'm not going to fawn. I'm not going to like reject myself. So like we use these astrology tools to go, okay, now how can I expand my repertoire of tools so I don't fall into the low octaves of them?
Yeah, and that's why I always say to people, I'm like, it's a choice. Like, and I've also had to accept the fact that like I can be an intense person. I can be intense. I like to go deep, and I get that like some people don't want that.
Yeah.
And understanding my wiring of astrology, understanding the wound points in my chart, and understanding like the medicine in that, again, doesn't always make things. It's not easy, but it's become so much more easier to have self acceptance around myself and be more freer in my expression because I've learned that. I feel like astrology has been the top tool, and I've done therapy, every fucking personal development seminar under the sun, and just being like, okay, this is it. And I can either embrace the fact that I'm a little intense and I can lean
Mm.
into that and just like lean into the gone right expression of that, or I can keep trying to like water shit down and be something that I'm not and then die a little inside every day.
Yeah.
So
That.
like, and it's and I admire other people who have different placements of me. I'm like, oh, they're so graceful. But I'm not maybe I'm gonna be maybe the little bit fiery or sassy one. And like sometimes I don't love being that one, and sometimes I do. And that's the whole thing. It's like, we're wired a certain way, and I think part of our journey on earth is to really yeah, accept everyone says be who you are, but it's like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, who are you? Because a lot of us don't really know. We think we know. And then like a Pluto transit comes and we're
And
like,
you're like, oh God, I knew nothing.
yeah. So that I feel like we're going to be over the next 2 years, particularly working with that question, especially with all the Aries energy, all the Leo energy is like, who are you? Who are you? Like at the core, beyond all the masks, beyond the performance, who are you?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Mhm.
Closing up,
Mhm.
what would you leave our listeners with about like what we've talked about today? Yeah, guidance point or like any like advice for anyone that's dealing with these kind of things.
Ooh, I feel like we said so many things. Now
So
I'm
many
like, am I
things.
repeating myself? See, I'm just overthinking. Um, hmm.
Whatever comes through. First thing.
I think it's really important to work with your chart, like really look at your whole chart, work with an astrologer you trust, because if you go in isolation, you're going to get piecemeal things and you might miss the whole puzzle, and you might be spiraling and feeling out of control for no necessary reason. So if you are really stuck and maybe you don't understand your chart, but you're like, I'm going through something, or you explore one of those books if like you're dealing more with a specific creativity or something. Like I'm just saying, like you don't have to sit in the shit and spiral. There's probably a bigger picture at play, and depending on how everything is landing in your chart, that also determines like what's there for you. How can you best move within it?
Hmm. Hmm.
There's that, because a lot of people try to piecemeal shit and you waste so much time doing that.
Hmm. I've done
Um,
it
I've
100
done it.
times.
Okay, so I want to say that um, go to someone that you resonate with, that you know, feel like can help you work through something because you can save a
Mhm.
lot of time and energy. That's the first thing. And yeah, the second thing is the the yeah, that book by Rick Rubin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I've
love
been,
it. It's been a huge anchor for me and it's such a permission slip when I've been stuck in my creativity. And such a nice reminder sometimes about what it's all about.
yeah. I've been thinking about I think I read half of it, put it down, and I need to go back to it. And like yesterday, I like picked it back up. I was like, I think it's time to reread you.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things he said was like, you think of the audience last. And I
Yes.
really love that because it's not what everyone else is teaching. You know, everybody else out there, not in the creative world, but in like sort of the marketing world or the business world, is not saying that. They're not saying you think about your audience last. They're all saying, make sure you know exactly what your audience wants. Did you check in? Did you ask them? Whereas Rick's
Yeah.
like, you think of the audience last, like create from your friggin' heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a reminder. I'm going to pick it up too,
Yeah.
everyone. We're all just going to read The
Such
Creative
a
Act.
struggle. Yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for this magic. Where can people find you right now? What are you doing? What are you offering? How can they work with you? All the good stuff.
Right now you can just find me at Align with Renata on Instagram. And then I do have right now some one-on-one intensives and I'm kind of rejigging things.
Cool.
So that's as far as that goes.
Beautiful.
So I'm rejigging, I'm rejigging certain offers, but yeah.
Beautiful. So yeah, whatever she's up to, you'll see it via Instagram
Hmm.
and her website, which is phenomenal and highly suggest for anyone that is interested in working with you and Renata. Like I have personally had you as a business coach and done several sessions with you. And I would say it was most forward momentum I've ever had in my
Oh, I
business.
appreciate that.
Most money I've ever made in my business, probably the most solid I've ever felt in my business. So anyone that is considering working with Renata, I can personally attest it's a really, really good time and we hit some tears, but also like
Yeah.
probably the best breakthroughs I've had are working with you. Whenever I think about who I want to work with, like at my next pieces, it's always like, yeah, I think Renata's like the right person to crack open that piece. So just
I
a
appreciate that.
personal testimony to
Yeah.
your work.
And that's just me and my Plutonian
Yeah.
undertones. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's needed. It's needed. You are not afraid to go there, which is one of my favorite things about you. So, yeah, thank you for this conversation. I feel like a lot of people are gonna get even just like a sigh of relief listening to it, that
Mhm.
it's like you're not crazy if you're going through these hard moments and like it's
They can be
actually
hard.
yeah, it's an initiation and on the other side of it is probably something really beautiful. So if you're in it, like trust that you're going somewhere. Just you might need a little bit of hand holding. That's okay.
Yeah, and there might be, and I want to just reiterate the grief part. There might be
Yeah.
some version of grief that's involved with it,
Yeah.
and that's sometimes what it can bring. Whether that's a version of yourself, whether that's an actual loss, moving on into a relationship, career, person in your life. So that's not something to, again, it's not something to fear. It's just part of the human experience that we experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a great reminder that yeah,
And it sucks.
it's not it does
Sometimes.
suck. There's nothing wrong with you and it fucking sucks and it's painful and there'll be a lot of tears and also yeah, where's it leading you is like such a good
Mhm.
reminder. Thank you for your medicine and
You're
your
welcome.
knowledge. Yeah. All right. I will link everything in the show notes for you guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to send us messages. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments on Spotify. What did you receive from this conversation? What were your breakthroughs? Did you have any aha moments? Feel free to share them with us, and I will make sure to respond to you. Thank you guys, and until next time.